Previously on Repair, Restore, Revive, Mark received a quote from the body shop to replace floor pans in the Corvair. Believing he could buy the tools and do the job for less than the body shop quote, he decided to invest in himself and tackle the project on his own, but soon discovered structural damage beneath the floor pans. After showing us how to build the bracing beneath the car with some Eastwood tools, he's ready to move forward with the project. Now he'll show us how to fabricate floor pans while trying to stay under the body shop quote.
In the first episode, we got a quote from the body shop to install the new floor pans. We put together our own quote on what we thought we could do it with, buying the tools and the sheet metal ourselves and building floor pans. We came in about $110 less than the body shop, but we did add stitch weld magnets and an anvil dolly. So now we're still about $40 under, and if we don't add any more products, we're looking good.
So with all the corrosion taken care of and treated, the metal repair, we now got a solid base to put the new floor pans on. So what I'm doing now is I got some manila folders. Yes, the regular one isn't big enough. That's what the tape's for. We taped a couple together to give the size that I wanted. That's going to be our template. Simply putting those in there and making some relief cuts, get them to fit, doing any type of marking, any measurement, anywhere that I see that I got to cut something, a little bit here or there, I'm going to be writing right onto the template itself. And then going ahead and using the stitch weld magnets again to hold those in place. I'll do both sides. Also what we're doing is I'm marking out areas for what we're going to do for some stiffening ribs. I'm going to roll a couple 3/8 beads, and then also going to do some offsets in here right underneath where left foot on the passenger side and about right foot on the driver's side would be, just so you don't have that oil canning. Remember, it's only paper at this point. It's a lot easier to start over now than once you've already transferred to metal.
So what is this, Arts and Crafts Day? I
Yes,
thought you
it
were
is.
putting a floor in.
This is it. This is the floor. It's in 3 pieces now. Gonna put some strengthening beads in there, similar to what's in here.
And then what's this?
That's gonna be a piece that's gonna come off of there. There's some, found this,
Oh.
bunch
All
of
right.
rot
So you're
all the way along there.
fixing that with
So that's
the
gonna,
centerpiece.
yeah, and then it'll be cut off of here so that this.
So how would it look underneath?
I'll
Can
show
get
you the
those
yeah.
braces? Ah, cool.
So that's the new braces that are in there.
Look good.
Rust encapsulator on that. Let that sit into any of the pits. And then what we're gonna do is grind any of the spot weld areas on here. Grind that off. Put through some self-etch weld through.
What's the hole for in the brace you've made?
That's the lightning hole. This is used with the punch flare die.
Really?
Just to get a little strength, little look. You'll
Was
never
that-
see it again. But
Was that on the budget?
no, that we didn't.
All right. Well, I'll go at it.
All right,
Good luck.
I'm gonna take these to metal. I'm starting with the passenger floor pan first. I'm taking my template, transferring that onto the 18 gauge sheet metal. What you want to do here is carefully mark out your perimeter, any of the cut lines that you have in there. And what I'm also doing on the interior, my bead and the offset joggles, I'm simply taking a razor blade and cutting right through where the marks are on the template. That will then transfer right onto the 18 gauge metal. Now, areas where I'm using the electric shear to cut this out, I'm leaving a little bit extra material so I can come back with the snips and do a real fine fit onto those. One thing you want to remember here in preparation for the bead roller is the thought process of working from the panel from the inside out. We want to do each of our bead forming and joggles on the inside of the panel before we start doing anything on the exterior, which would actually lock it in. To help with bead rolling, the best is to grab a partner so you can focus on the sight lines and the beads themselves. Instead of trying to run your sight line down the center of the die, simply pick the left or right edge and give you far more accurate beads. In order for your structural bead to add true rigidity, it needs to be a minimum of 1/8 above the surface of the panel. I'm drilling 1/8 stop drill holes at the end of each of my relief cuts. This serves two purposes. It gives me a stopping point for my relief cut, and it also gives a nice area for the metal to form into. Once I bent the rear piece up to get the form coming back into the seat area there, it was then time to swap out the dies onto our new bead forming kit. So what I'm using now is the urethane die on the bottom and our 3/8 radius bead forming die on top. What this is going to do is give nice gentle radiuses around this panel. I'm going to go ahead and run that on the 3 edges, running over the trails where we did our stop drill and our slitting. What that's going to do is turn each of those pieces up. As you've just seen, we've been using Clecos a lot putting in these floor pans. So I thought it'd be good to explain what they are. They're actually compression fasteners. These come from the aviation industry, and they're sized for a particular rivet. These happen to be 1/8 or a -4 rivet. So what you want to do is drill your exact 1/8 holes in your panels. What these allow you to do in automotive use, as you can see, I can securely and accurately hold 2 panels ago while I'm fabricating your floor pan. And what it allows you to do is quickly remove each of your Clecos, and then you can pull the panel out, do whatever work you may need to do on it, and then when you come back in for your second fitting, lining up your holes, you know you have your accuracy in there. One thing I do want to stress is that when you're using the -4 or the 1/8 Clecos, you want to drill exact 1/8 hole. If you drill a little bit larger, like a 9/64, I mocked one up here, I'll show you what'll happen. You're going to be able to have movement. From this angle here, you can see how you got your true clamping force. Now here's the one coming up in the incorrect sized hole. You can see your side clamping pieces just don't have your true grip. What this is going to allow is a lot of panel movement. So let's get back to the car right now, finish up these floor pans. I use the English wheel to form a nice gentle radius into the toe kick area of the passenger pan here, you see. Give a nice gentle radius on there. It's a very easy tool to use. Don't be afraid of it at all. It's going to enhance your metal forming skills greatly. You're going to tell me the English wheel wasn't on the budget, aren't you?
Yeah, or that rubber band thing you got.
Well, the rubber band's cool. That I like. What we're using on that, we're putting it onto the top wheel, and what that does is it gives an area for the metal to form. Now I can form metal much quicker than just using the anvil and the wheel themselves. There was one area, again, by where we're running into problems with this is down by this lower A-pillar in here. There was some work previously done there. So I made a slit, scribed it, gave a nice file fit in there, and then went ahead, welded, blended that area. With the panel pretty close to the shape that we want now, it's time to run the offset down on the inboard side. What this is going to do is create an offset into the passenger side floorboard, which will allow us our center panel to fit right in there without any type of overlap. It'll fit right into the joggle, and it'll be a real nice plug weld seam. Put some underlayment under there in the carpet and you'll never feel anything there. So when joining two pieces here, don't just put it on top here. Make a joggle, put the piece in it so you end up with a nice clean flush joint. So once that's done there, I'm going to come back out with the panel, prep it for welding, go ahead and do a final test fit and scribe up in the toe kick area. Just need to do a little bit trimming up there. So we scribed a line, I trimmed that back in. I'm going to cleco it back in place and do a final fit before welding. After the trial fit, I noticed that in the seat mount area there, coming up over the radius, just wasn't perfect. So what I'm doing is final trim back here, get that to marry up and have a nice butt weld seam. So now that the panel's fitting pretty good, I'm mixing up some epoxy here. What it is a 2-component panel bonding adhesive. What it'll do is give a little bit more structure and rigidity to it, but still allow some flexibility. So as I said earlier, down at the lower A-pillar here, toe kick area, there was previous repair and there was some epoxy already bound into this, so we couldn't weld into that area. So that's where I'm using our panel bonding adhesive, and then we're going to go ahead perimeter around the rest of the floor pan in place. When performing plug or rosette welds, simply drill 3/16 diameter holes 2 to 3 inches apart and perform the weld by starting in the center of the hole and spiraling to the perimeter, which I'm demonstrating with the marker. Once I finished welding in the floor pan itself, for corrosion protection I came back 2 full coats of self-etch primer and then seam seal on all the exposed areas underneath the pan. We repeated the process on the driver's side floor pan. And here's a tip when you're running the bead roller, whether you're doing beads or the offset joggles like you see here, try and find a start-stop point that's on a straight run but not going to be right visual into the center of your pattern. As with any of the forming dies, you want to gradually make your contour. It may take 3 or 4 passes to get to a 90-degree bend.
Looking good.
Hey.
Floor pan looks real good.
Yeah, it's
Beads
coming
look,
out.
Beads look perfect.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your handle cranking, man.
That's
you
what
know
they
that.
say, yep. Using the teardrop dolly though.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Looks nice.
It's working out good.
Don't remember seeing that on the budget?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, I'll go add that.
Alrighty.
We may have surpassed the body shop quote on this first floor pan project, but that's because we started with 0 tools, none at all. But you will never see us go over budget again because now we own everything we need to do all the future repairs on this Corvair, from trunks and fenders to doors and quarter panels. And that is when you will see us save thousands of dollars. And it's all because we made this investment in ourselves.
Once I was happy with the fit of the floor pan, I clecoed in place and then went ahead and used our pinch weld clamps onto the underneath floor bracing. Get that a nice tight fit there for the plug welds, and then did perimeter weld around the remainder of the pan. Once I applied the self-etch primer to the newly installed driver floor pan, it was time to tackle the center section. So when cameraman Joe wasn't looking, I went ahead and made 2 of the side pieces, which were very easy pieces to make on the break. Then went back to the manila folder template, figured out what I wanted to do for the center piece there, then transferred that to metal. When transferring your pattern to metal, always use a solid line for your cut lines and a dash for your bend lines. That way you'll never confuse the two. Did a little bit of brake work with the VersaBend for the rear piece that was coming up into the seat mount area. And then went ahead and made 2 relief cuts down the side. What that's going to do is that's making the uprise where the actual the heater plenum comes up in these cars. So what we want to do is cover that. More test fitting on the centerpiece here. And you'll notice, you'll see parallel lines that I have drawn randomly around this. What those are is my witness marks. That way when I'm taking the piece in and out of the vehicle, I have something to align it and make sure that I'm back into the same area.
So you've seen me use the Perfect Panel Prep tool here when we're preparing the floor pans for butt welding. So let me go ahead and show you what these are about. Until now, the operation of butt welding entailed preparing both pieces, aligning them together, and then going ahead and forming your weld on top of it, whether it be a MIG weld or a TIG weld, as you see here. The current issue with that, especially on the MIG, is that you have this proud weld bead. As I'm demonstrating with the ruler here, you can see how proud this is from the substrate surface. So the secondary operation, as we all know, is weld blending, which was done here. Ended up finishing this with what feels like maybe a 180 grit. But if you look carefully, what you'll see is that so much of the weld has been ground away, it's actually compromising the seam here. And you see this hairline crack that has started. Well, if you don't notice that right away, you do your blending, you go ahead, put on any surfacer, your primers, and then your top coats. Any vibration in the vehicle during regular road use, this is going to start coming through. And it's not just going to crack underneath the surface here, it's going to crack up through each of your layers of coatings. We developed the Perfect Panel Prep tool for both the beginner welder and expert alike. What these tools do is form an offset. On the edge of the panel, it's going to tip the edge about 45 degrees, 0.62 in length. You do that on both panels where they meet, and what you're going to end up with is a valley. The way that's done in both of the tools here, this is the pneumatic version I have, is with our exclusive jaw design here, which will allow us to tip in one shot. We recreated the jaw design, same geometric shape, in this easy to use manual operated version. If you don't have air, this is easy to use. If you just have a couple small pieces of patch panel that you want to use, this does it real quick. So now that you have this valley created between the two panels, you can go ahead and lay a MIG bead or a TIG bead right in there. As you can see, there's going to be very minimal post-weld blending, and you'll be ready for primer. So now that you've seen how the Perfect Panel Prep tools work, let's get back to the Corvair project, and you'll see the pneumatic version in action a little later.
When starting a project like this, don't be intimidated thinking you have to form it out of one piece. Simply break it up into multiple, manageable sections. Now it's time to form the side panels for the centerpiece. Again, I'm using the manila folders, and you'll see the witness marks just to keep everything in line. Taking this template onto metal now, cut it out with the shear, and back to the bead roller forming dies. You notice I have a much larger piece. What that allows me to do is give the just material to handle while I'm taking it through the bead roller there, forming a nice 3/8 radius on here, and then cut that down to size. I'm working the top and bottom radius for the side panel here. What you'll notice is the left side of this center panel is already completed. So I'm going to get these things made up, get the 3/8 bead roll in them, cut them down to length, and then I'm using both the shrinker and stretcher to get the contour. Reason for that is I want to do some stretching on here to get the radius that I need, but if I go a little bit too far, I can just put it right into the shrinker and pull that out a little. So I'm going to keep working these till I get a perfect fit. As before, I'm using my Sharpie as layout fluid, and I'm taking the scribing the cut lines for my top and bottom radius. I'm going to go ahead and cut those. Use a little 3-inch sander on here just to get a little bit better fit. Now I'm using the pneumatic panel prep tool. This one works great. Obviously it's air powered. You got much more power than you do with your hand. You don't have the fatigue, and it works real nice going on these long straight runs. So I'll go ahead, I'll tip both of the edges on there, again with the magnets, tack this in place, blend the weld, and then move on to form the center part of the panel. With the bottom piece tacked and blended just as the top radius, I'm going to make a temporary bracket to hold the whole shape of this together while I take it out of the vehicle. The reason I had my temporary bracket on there, as you can see, was it's a lot easier to duplicate this piece with my manila folder from the back side. Once the centerpiece is tacked in and it's secured to both the top and bottom radius, I'll go ahead, cut out that center bracket, and then weld it together. With the piece tacked together, I was happy with the fit, went ahead and did a full weld around it and blended it, and then back in the vehicle for hopefully its final test fit. Everything looks good in there. Went ahead and applied 2 coats of our self-etch primer, let that cure, scuffed it. Following that up with our 2K urethane high build primer. What this is a 2-component in an aerosol can, so you get the benefits of a 2K paint with the ease and application of an aerosol can. Puncture the center bladder, shake it, and apply 2 full wet coats. Wait for it to cure, scuff it, and then I'm also removing any of the coatings around my weld seams, which is on the edges of the center panel and my flange on the existing left and right floor panel. Go ahead in preparation for plug welding back into the vehicle.
What do you think, Randy?
The floor pans look incredible.
Yeah, I think they turned out pretty good.
I mean, the body shop was going to charge $22.80, cost us a little over $3.
So it's about $700,
Yeah, I mean, we went over a little bit,
but got $3,000 worth of tools.
yeah, if we would have paid them, all we would have got was the floor pans.
All right,
now we
so-
got the floor pans and
Everything you see here.
everything. I mean, we got a welder, a bead roller, an English wheel. I mean,
Yeah.
all kinds of grinders and shears. I mean,
We got enough metal forming tools here to take care of any metal project on this, the rest of the car.
yeah. I guess what's next?
Well, that's what I was looking at. The fenders, obviously those. The trunk floor is bad. That's got that big hole in the center of it.
Yeah.
It's also got the 2 side pieces of that. The fenders need to come off to repair them. So
Yeah.
I think if we get the body shop back in here, let's have them quote both of those.
Yeah.
And
Do you-
then we'll decide which one we want to start on.
all right. Do you think you'll be able to beat his next quote?
I think so. With all this, yeah, I mean, we get some sheet metal again.
I mean, what are we going to have to buy? We pretty much have everything we need for the next project and pretty much
Yeah.
have finished restoring this car.
Yeah, I don't think, other than maybe some rust encapsulator stuff, you know, some chemical, but no, I think we're set.
Yeah, we should beat every quote from here on out, I think.
Yeah.
Now we're making money.
Yep,
All right. Well, that's enough work for the day.
I agree.
Let's go do something else. Damn, Mark, you've been doing squats?
Yes.
I can tell. It shows. I mean, good job.
On the next episode of Repair, Restore, Revive, Mark gets the quote from the body shop to repair the doors. But since he already owns all the tools he needs, his only investment is $70 in sheet metal, which means he's already saved over $1,000.